All right, so this is a program that basically searches various platforms and finds people with a problem that you solve, and it can be customized to however you want it and whatever your offer is. It finds these people and then it automatically generates replies or comments to their post, or it can automatically DM them also if you decide to set that up. It just depends on which platforms you're trying to do this on, because some of them will block you or ban you if you try to implement something like that. And sometimes it just doesn't work functionally. So I'm going to start running it now because it's going to take a while. So I'm just going to get it going, and then I'm going to explain to you how it works, how I did it, and how you can use it in your business. So I'm just going to type run full pipeline, and it should get started off. So how I built this was, first, I have a background in technology, so keep that in mind. But to be honest, I didn't really use it at all whenever it came to creating this project. And I'm by no means an expert in Claude Code. But just to really show you how powerful this is, I want to quickly break down like how you kind of use Claude Code and how you can set up a similar project to this, or maybe even build this one to implement into your business. If you haven't gotten your first customer yet, I think this is a valid way to do it. I think that you can do a lot of volume with how much automation is built into this system. And I think it's a pretty viable option to implement in your business, depending on your offer and depending on what avatar you're trying to reach. But the way Claude Code works is basically what you're seeing in front of you right now is kind of like your chat. If you're used to Claude or any other AI LLM model, this is kind of like your chat, except this has specific tools built into it to where you can be inside a project folder. So you can't see right now, but down here, usually you would see a project folder and it would be the name. So this is it for me right here, evolveOS outbound. And basically it has access to all the files within that project folder. It can edit them. It can do stuff. It asks for permissions if it needs to do something that's sensitive or something. And then you can approve it and it'll just run through it. But the way Claude Code works is basically you have, at least from what I can tell, as much as I've been using it for this project, you have a decisions document and then you have a handoff document. And the decisions is just like what it sounds. It's every decision you made about the project and what you're going to do going forward. And the handoff is basically just handing it off to the next session, because the way these work is you run these through sessions, because if you see down here, you have a context window. And when this context window fills up, you can compact it to where it skinnies back down. But then the outputs, eventually, if you do this enough times, the outputs won't be as good because you'll have a worse context that you're starting out with. So it's good to start new sessions to depending, like once you wrap up a task, just type into the command, all right, let's wrap up this session. It will update the handoff and the decisions document and Claude.md. If you don't know what Claude.md, that's what runs every single time you run a new session, a new command. It will update all of that on its own, and it will ask you for your decision. Like, you are still the decision maker, right? So it's going to ask you for your input on how you think things should be designed and things like that. But then you just respond to it in natural language. Like, I didn't write a single line of code for this entire project. So how does it work? Basically, it's using a couple different APIs. I'm going to show you one that you can consider using to bypass kind of a lot of the platforms that don't let you have API access as easily. It uses a couple APIs to pull in the data, and there's different limitations depending on what platform you're on with how you can pull in data and how you can kind of sort through it. And then it takes that data, it puts it in a database, and then it sends, so through this pipeline, another program will send that data to Claude, and there's a prompt that technically I just kind of instructed Claude to write, but I gave it input in what it should do. And this prompt will basically sort through the good post and the less, so it has a ranking system where it's like A, B, C, and then reject. And then the rejections just get completely rejected. C's you don't really worry about as much because they're not like your real target avatar. B is like your target avatar, but not the best message, not the best setup for you to kind of go in there and leave a comment. And then A is like ideal scenario, ideal avatar, ideal post for you to respond to or you to send them a DM from in reference. So once it gets scored, and that's going to take the longest because there's so many, like you're going to pull in so much data. It's going to be thousands of different posts and stuff that the scoring is going to take the longest, which is probably what it's doing right now, because it's going to take at least a few minutes for it to get through that. You can set up, there's ways to make it more efficient where you can like tell Claude to run it in parallel. You can run multiple at a time. and stuff like that. If you know about coding, you know what I'm talking about. If not, it doesn't really matter. Claude understands it, and Claude will even recommend it to you. Like, as I saw when I was making this project, it found ways to make it more efficient. It found ways to save me API cost. And whenever you run into a bug, like I'm sure a lot of you have used Claude already, but whenever you run into a bug, it pretty much self-diagnoses it and it just fixes it before you even realize there was a bug there. But anyway, I was telling you how it works. So after it gets scored, all of the best posts will get run through another prompt that will basically generate your reply to either, if you're leaving a comment, it will leave a comment on their post or whatever, and you can fine tune this. Like, this is kind of like my beta phase where I've ran it a few times, and it looks great. The responses look great. I'm sure there's some fine tuning that I can go in there and make it a lot better, but you're going to have an automated response that is like exactly what you should say with your motives aligned. So like, if you want to get them on a call to try to pitch them your service or your whatever you're trying to do, you generate the prompt. And again, you can work with Claude in this chat to come up with the best prompt possible for you to do that. And then you can iterate on it and refine on it. And it will all get sent. So the way mine is set up right now, I'll show you later what the result is once it finishes. But all this data gets sent, like with the link to the post, with the information about the post, everything, all this data gets sent to a Notion database, because I just use Notion. So it was just the simplest thing for me to do. You can do whatever you want. You can even ask Claude what it thinks you should do. But I'll show you that result, and it's really easy. I prefer to have a human in the middle, so I don't have a fully automated comment or DM being sent out by the bot. Like, basically, it's sending me what it's suggesting I should say, and like if I want to tweak it just a little bit, make it sound a little bit more like me, more authentic, then I have that opportunity to do so. And it takes like maybe 30 seconds to go through each post, because it'll link straight to it, and I read the response, copy, paste it, change it however I want, and hit send. So you can go through hundreds of posts in an hour. Like, this really increases your output. And I mean, that's pretty much how it works. The prompts and stuff, like, they're going to be specific to your exact scenario. So whatever your offer is, and however your avatar has their problems pronounced, and whatever you learn in the posts that they're making, or it can even analyze their profiles and see their recent posts and other things they're talking about. And it will give you like an analysis of each avatar in your prospect table in your database, to where you know what to say, how to basically pitch them to your offer, or give them a DM, help them with some free value first. However you want to run your funnel, then you can set this up. It's so customizable. You can set this up to do it however way you want. So let me show you that API I was talking about. My program is using two APIs. One, it's using the YouTube data API, which is free up to 10,000 units a day, I think, which is plenty for what I'm trying to do. So I'll never even hit that, and it's free. So what does it matter? You may as well use as much of it as you can. And then the other API, because my program is set up to scrape Reddit, YouTube, and it was scraping X. And I'll explain why I stopped scraping X near the end of the video when I get to the results. But basically, because Reddit just locked down their API like a month ago or something like that, and make it very hard to get approved to use it. And a lot of other APIs are in a similar situation. This company named Netrows kind of came up with like a gray zone, where they're saying technically, their argument is that technically the data is public, so we should be able to scrape it and use it in our API. So what they do is they sell their API with all of these different combined endpoints. So you have LinkedIn, X, TikTok, Reddit, Google, Blue Sky, Upwork, Trustpilot. You've got Instagram, Facebook. You have pretty much most of the platforms that you would want to reach people on, they're on here. And the way their pricing works is they have 3 different tiers, I think. Oh yeah, and then they also have custom. So starter gets you 10,000 credits. And keep in mind, I would say most things cost 1 credit per search, but there are some that return multiple things. So like if you do, for example, on X, if you search a keyword for tweets or something like that, you'll get 20 back for 5 credits. So you can really kind of eat up the cost of your credits if you do those searches that cost more. But I would say most of them cost 1 credit. And then after, if you go over, I don't think it says it here. Maybe I'm just not seeing it, but you pay per credit after this. And like the higher tier you have, the less you pay per credit, obviously. So I think 10,000 credits will probably be fine for most of the projects that you would be using this for. But again, You can move up to this tier if it became financially, it would make sense if you were going to use 100,000 credits or a little bit less than that, a little bit more, whatever it is. So Netrows is one way that you could get access to APIs that you wouldn't normally be able to get access to, and you just have to pay them a monthly subscription. And it's really easy because you just have one API set up with Netrows, and then you get access to all those other APIs, which is pretty cool. And while this is still running, I just want to reiterate like how easy this was for me to develop, even if I really didn't have much of a tech background. I did not write a single line of code. I actually learned about some coding stuff that I didn't know from before just from doing this project through the AI. And like, I'm just basically like, maybe some of you have already used Claude Code and you understand what I'm saying, but I'm just so impressed with how good it is. Like, I mean, I basically just typed everything in natural language. It made suggestions. It waited for my response. It looked for my input, and it barely ever made any mistakes. And when it did make a mistake, it would quickly correct. It would correct its own mistakes. Like before I even noticed, it would just output in chat, like what it did, what it found, and how it resolved it. So what I'm saying is like, this is just one application for you to figure out a way to get customers, for you to implement things into your business. Some of it won't even have to do with getting customers. It could be customer service or, other things that you can sales, and the way you can develop scripts and how you can analyze your sales calls and see like where you're looking for improvements. There are so many things you can do with this, but if you haven't gotten your first customer yet, I think that this is a very viable way. Depending on your niche and depending on what your avatar looks like, where they're posting online, I think this is a very viable way for you to get your first customers if you haven't yet, or ramp up your outbound. If you're already doing outbound and you kind of understand how to do the comment DM strategy, how you can get people in the door, then this will just give you a huge amount of leverage. It'll make it go way faster. You'll have way more time to do other things, and you can get more done doing something like this. So I'm just going to wait for this to finish running, and then I'll show you the output in Notion afterwards. All right, so it finally finished. There were some issues with Netrows where it was being kind of flaky. It was having some timeouts, and that to be honest, that isn't characteristic. I've ran this at least 3 or 4 times, and I had no issues whatsoever. So maybe it's just a rate limit problem they're having today or something. I'm not sure. But it took 67 minutes to complete. And if you're thinking that's a long time, yeah, but you can schedule this to run whenever you want. So it can run before you even wake up. So like the report is ready to go right whenever you want to jump into it. So all 7 steps ran okay, and it scored 2,252 different items. It has 156 briefs processed, and it cost $7. And most of that's in scoring, as you can see here, because it's so much volume and a lot of it gets dumped away. I'm confident that this can be improved. Like, this is a very beta version of the prompt and the setup for like pre-scoring before it even gets into the scoring prompt for Claude. So that can definitely be improved. And then the briefs are much less expensive because it's much less volume, but that costs $1.31. The yield overall is 121 B pluses with 10.3%, but that's kind of a lie because basically what's happening here is YouTube video. I have it set to where I have like a list of channels that pulls in all their top level videos, including their shorts, anything they post on their channel, etc. And it automatically ranks them as B to create a draft for them, because this is in the situation like you could have this set up to where it pulls the transcript in from this data API that is not, it's third party, it's not YouTube approved. And I did that, I tried it, but it kept getting IP blocked because I think it got through like 50 of them and then it got IP blocked because I don't think YouTube wants you doing that. So what you could do is, and what I would be doing if I was leaving these comments, is I would just copy the transcript and run it through the prompt myself. But if you didn't want to do that, you could just have it pull the title and the description, and it could write it based on that. It just depends on the type of video whether that would work or not, though. So it marks those all at 100%. So that doesn't mean like this 10.3% is really accurate, because that would be insane. If it was 10%, that would be ridiculous. So what's more likely is it's more like 4 to 5%. Because the Reddit Firehose, which is basically like you give it a list of subreddits, and well, at least this is the way I set it up. I gave it a list of subreddits, and it just pulls the most recent posts from those and scores all of them. And so I got 21 out of 432 on that, which is about 5%, which is pretty good. Like, that's a pretty good yield. And then for YouTube reply, it's the same similar thing, except you pull different channels and you take the comments from those, so the replies from those channels, and rank those. and I got 24 out of 584, which is 4.1%, a little bit worse, but this is kind of on par with what I've been seeing. And then the Reddit keyword, this was one of the ones that flaked out to where it just kept timing out and none of them actually processed. If this were a real run when it didn't time out, this would be a little bit less efficient to the Reddit fire hose. So it would probably be more like 3.5% or 4%. It's usually not as good. And that all depends on what keywords you're searching and what your actual offer is. Because when I was searching X, I would also get yield back. It would work, but the rate was at like 1.5%. It wasn't really a good return. And that was simply because just the nature of my offer and my avatar, they're not really posting on X or something looking for that problem to be solved, because it's just a unique situation to where like it doesn't really work for that use case. But for most things, whatever you're selling, like it usually will, because people will be talking about what problems they have and what solutions they're looking for. Like if they need something, they might be asking people for recommendations or talking about their problem in posts or whatever. So it depends on what your niche is, how useful the keyword stuff is. The database also cleans itself. So some of these rows were from previous runs. So it cleaned up 16,000 rows and it kind of breaks it down there. And then it logs an audit, which is basically most of the stuff we just ran. And then it just reminded me that Netrows was flaky today. So let's jump into Notion and see what we got. So this is the outbound, and this isn't the full database. This is just the views I made for the database. So the top one is top level drafts. So these are the list of channels that are pulling all their YouTube videos. And basically it just has like the name of the video, the name of the channel, then a link to the video that it pulled. And they're obviously all going to be drafts because I haven't reviewed any of them. And it has the title. And I set this up with, so basically brief is like it's briefing you on why it's a good fit. And then the angle is like the angle you would take in your response, or so in the draft. And then the draft would be here, but a lot of these aren't going to be pulled in because it wasn't able to pull the transcript, and they don't have descriptions because they're like shorts or something like that. So you would have to manually go run these through the prompt to get the actual response. But that's not really what the system is built for anyway. So this is what it's more built for. And again, these are just the platforms that I chose initially, and I also had X initially. But you can use this on many other platforms too. It just depends on what your offer is. So these are replies to YouTube videos and posts and replies to Reddit posts. And these are already calculated drafts. So these are your tier, like what the best options are. They're mostly going to be B, because I don't even pull C's in from the database. I just pull B and above. And so this tells you the platform. You have a link to the post, when it was posted, and you can sort by all that. And then you have the subreddit it was posted in, if it's in a Reddit. Some of them aren't. Post title, post body, the context, and then you have your draft and the same angle brief, same things over there. So if you want to just like quickly check out the post, then you can check out the post title right here, see what it says. And then you have the post body where you can actually just fully read it here. You don't even have to click on the link. And then if you don't think it's a good post to send a response to, you could just, just hit skip and like, don't even worry about it. You don't even have to go anywhere. And then if you were going to send something to it, you would check out the draft and you would take it, see like, how you want to change it or whatever, and copy it and then go post it yourself. Now, this is the man in the middle version of this. You can obviously do this with like an automated system set up to where it would go out and do the commenting for you. It would just be more expensive token wise, and you wouldn't really have that human touch where you can kind of adjust the comments. And again, it's set up like this right now because I don't know how good the prompts are and how much they need to be tuned, which is why I would rather do it manually a little bit at first so that I can really fine tune the prompts and make it a little bit better. But this is limited to 25. You can load more. There was it was like 100 and something that it pulled in today. And you'll see sometimes you'll get stuff like this where it's a lot of people commenting on the same video and stuff. And you can go reply to all of them if you want. It just depends on how you want to do that. And then this is just all drafts. So I have another view set up, which has all drafts set up, and it's a little bit longer limit. Like you can still load more. Let's go see how many we have in total. So yeah, that's all of it. So it's like 100, and that's still a lot that you can go through. It's going to take you probably an hour or so to get through those. I would say maybe a little less if you're fast and you're rejecting a lot of them. But the whole point of this system is to make it as easy as possible, to make it as automated as possible for you to find the people that would work specifically for your offer and for your niche. And if you're trying to get your first customers, or you're trying to scale up and increase the amount of leverage you have, I think this is a viable option. I mean, obviously it can be tuned and tweaked and fit specifically to your offer, but I think it's something you could take a look at. If maybe you aren't able to cold call your audience, or you're not able to get their emails, so you can't send cold emails out, I think this is one viable way you can find them and connect with them on different social media platforms and send out your DMs, comment on their posts, add value, and see if you can get some people on calls to sell your thing. Real quick, if you want to start a business but haven't actually launched anything yet, I built a free 21-day system that takes you from idea to real market feedback with accountability and a community of people doing the same thing. I'll have a link below, but it's school.com/evolution. See you there.